Thank you so
Hi.
much for coming over at TaiwaneseAmerican.org. Can you sort of share with us, tell me about yourself and maybe what's your story?
Oh man, that's a loaded question. Well, first off, I'm Mel. I am a co-host and co-founder of this Asian American podcast for women called Asian Boss Girls. I'm one of three. I guess my backstory is that I think growing up, I've always been fascinated with media. And I definitely grew up in the YouTube era where like I watched like David Choi, Wong Fu Productions. That was like my entertainment because I didn't see faces like myself on television. And when I was younger, I would resort to like I was very influenced by Taiwanese media, but growing up in the US, that's not Taiwan. So in college, I stumbled upon this internship called at the San Diego Asian Film Festival, and that's where I really just got exposed to like representation in film and media through the Asian American community. I felt so moved and impacted by the community and what they're trying to do, and I was like, I really want to be a part of this. And at that time, Wong Fu was a guest, and I was assigned them. The universe works out in really interesting ways, and I ended up applying for their internship, and I got their internship, and I moved down to LA, and that just started my whole journey with media. And then I did realize that it wasn't really stable living in LA by yourself, like, and trying to make ends meet was kind of difficult. So I moved over to a corporate job. At the time, I had two girlfriends named Helen and Janet. They were just talking about like we're just venting about dating in LA and how work sometimes sucks or whatever. And Phil, who's actually Helen's fiance, was like, dude, you guys should like record this. We're like, this is just normal talk. Like, this is us, like any girlfriends over wine talking about their week. And he was like, there's not a lot of Asian American women who work 9 to 5 that are talking about this stuff. I was like, you're right. And then so we thought about it. And then we're like, let's launch a podcast. And so we started the podcast 3 years ago. And we did it as we were doing our full-time job. So we did it after hours. But we recently went full time this past March.
Congratulations. That's
Thank
big.
you. It's great timing too, but with the pandemic, but it's been super rewarding. I think on a personal level, I feel like I never felt so connected to my culture because a lot of the content we go over is like we do talk about the working women, but we talk about our Asian American identity, and for me, that's my Taiwanese American identity.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to dive in more on your sort of journey with Asian Boss Girl. So I'm gonna sort of take apart the title for a little bit. To you, what does it mean to be an Asian Boss Girl?
Oh man, I think for me, Asian boss girl is being like really authentic and genuine to who you are. And I think when you hear the word boss, it's very intimidating. You're like, I got to be this person that's always buttoned up, that's somewhat in some sense, quote unquote, perfect. But I think being a boss is owning your insecurities and being vulnerable with people and with yourself. And I think through vulnerability and owning like everything about yourself, the good parts and the bad, I think that's how you become a true boss because you're just aware of who you are and your surroundings.
So why do you sort of identify so strongly with Taiwanese America?
Man, so my mom immigrated here when she was 14 from Taiwan. And
Oh,
I think
okay.
in a lot of, yeah, so I think in a lot of ways, her immigrating to Hawaii was a huge factor because Hawaii is a place where there was a lot of Asians and Asian Americans. So I think her growing up in a place where she's part of the majority in some ways.
Yeah.
And then her moving to California, having my brother and I growing up, my mom she had no shame. She was not like never afraid to show her Taiwanese side at all. Like just very unapologetically Taiwanese American. Like she'll speak Mandarin, like she'll speak Taiwanese, like in her house and we're out in public. She just didn't care. And for our lunches, my mom would make like rofan or like, like dumplings and just pack it. And then I think with that mentality, she never hid her identity for my brother and I. And so I think, and then also on top of that, like we went to Taiwan almost every year during the summer or Christmas. I think with that, like going to the motherland, you just like love Taiwan. You just fall in love with the culture, the vibe, like just everything about it. And so I think growing up for my brother and I, we were just so proud. We're Taiwanese American.
So kind of going back to sort of like your career and your Asian Boss Girl and all your sort of involvement in Asian American media, what is as an influencer, what is something you think the world needs to pay attention to right now, especially maybe Taiwanese Americans need to pay attention to right now?
I'll start external first. I think Taiwanese Americans, even for me, one thing I learned is to be more connected to the world. I think for me personally, like learning about what's happening in the world with the US, like Europe, Asia, whatever, just in general, you see how you as an individual play a role in this and how you could progress I think when you're Taiwanese American, you're so proud and you're about your identity. You're zeroed in on like Taiwan only. But I think Taiwan also plays a role in the whole world. And so for me, it's like zooming out and seeing what is going on in the world and how is Taiwan playing a role, and what can we do, I guess, to help everyone, everything going on. Like, for example, like I think like Black Lives Matter played a role in me thinking about this, because I'm Taiwanese American. I'm not just Taiwanese. So understanding, why did my parents think a certain way? Why do my family members think a certain way when it comes to the Black Lives Matter movement in the US or like around the world? And for me, it's because I realize is like, I mean, I think in the day they come from Taiwan. They are Taiwanese. They're Taiwanese versus I'm Taiwanese American. And understanding that culture also plays a role in how they see the world and themselves and their role in it. But for me, being a second generation and being Taiwanese American, I'm blended. Like, I am Taiwanese, but I'm American. And so like when I see things going on, I try to figure out like, why do I feel conflicted sometimes? Or why do I feel this constant push and pull? It's because of my dual identity. And so I guess my advice really is to like, think about your identity and zone out and think about how your identity plays a role in this greater universe and stuff. And for me, that helps me understand my parents more.
What's the next big thing for you?
ABG is a big focus for next year, and just like bringing on really like amazing guests. And I think this is the first year we actually brought on some people on our team. So we have some interns. We might need to expand a little more next year, depending how our growth. But I think the biggest thing is just to grow our business. It's for me focusing on ABG and growing that to the best I can. And another thing I really want to do next year personally is actually, I want to move to Taiwan for a few months. With this year being kind of tumultuous, the thing I latched onto was my identity. So I've always wanted to be in Taiwan and just absorb the culture and what's going on. And so I want to just be there. I want to feel the energy of the motherland and just be inspired to create there. And so I do want to go there next year and just to dive deeper into my culture and seeing how that could play a role into the podcast too.
Oh my gosh, that would be super exciting. Wow, I'm very excited for you. That's cool. Thank you so much for talking with us here at TaiwaneseAmerican.org. We really appreciate your time here.